So migration to New Zealand can be a bit of an excellent opportunity for various individuals, but certainly trades and qualifications make someone more ideal candidates. Here's a brief overview of a perfect candidate for migration to New Zealand. So obviously skilled professionals, your occupation is must be in demand, like healthcare, engineering, IT, accountancy, relevant qualifications and work experience, and obviously English proficiency. Strong command of English is crucial for both work and daily life. Candidates often need to demonstrate proficiency through a test like ELTS, and then the adaptability, open to new cultures, environments, with the willingness to immigrate to Kiwi society, and then, like Tash just mentioned, the financial stability, sufficient saving to support initial settlement costs, and stable financial background. And then health and character, must be health requirements, must pass background checks. And then obviously education, recognized qualifications that meet the New Zealand qualifications assessment. And then the type of candidates would be your skilled migrants, entrepreneurs and investors, those looking at starting a business or invest significantly capital in New Zealand itself. And then as well as family candidates, people with close family members already living in New Zealand. So in conclusion, a perfect candidate for migration to New Zealand is typically a skilled, adaptable individual with strong English proficiency, financial stability, and a desire to integrate into New Zealand society.
Hey, Rich, have you got anything that you'd like to add on that?
I think Peter's answered that very comprehensively. I think, yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything that Peter's said. And I mean, if I look back now, you know, since what, 99, 2000, 2001, when I first started working in the recruitment and immigration industry, the type of person that has taken this seriously and called New Zealand home for you know, the last sort of 20 odd years. Yeah, I think skilled migrants are probably the primary ones. We used to have a long-term business visa. Now it's called an entrepreneur work visa, and there's a lot of investors in New Zealand. But I think essentially, if you're you know, well trained, well skilled, but most of all, you have the determination to make this happen. So almost moving away from all of your vocational stuff and the mindset, what you want for your family. I suspect that's the biggest battle. So yeah, worth considering.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's a big one, specifically for people from South Africa, is the future of their children, which I know we are going to discuss a bit later. So anyway, let's move on. Okay, so basically the agenda for this evening, just common mistakes and questions. You have the opportunity to put your questions in the chat box. We will get to them all at the end. Please, we will answer sort of generalized questions. If you have specific questions related to occupations or specific visas or anything like that, we won't be answering those this evening. We will put our contact details in, and you would have received emails from In-Demand as well. So we will make sure that we do direct you into the right channels to get the right person to answer your questions. And then, of course, we have our solutions. That's what we're here for, is to give you the solutions to your objections. And then we will put our contact details on. Great. Okay, so who are we? My name's Tash. I'm your very fun host this evening, and I'm one of In-Demand's consultants. And I'm the oldest in the company, but I'm the youngest in the doing what we do. But I love it. So I will let each person introduce themselves to you. Peter.
So yeah, like I just said, my name is Peter Steenkamp. I've been in the industry for about 5 years. I've just recently joined the company, and yeah, I'm the branch manager for the office in Johannesburg. So I'll be more open to see face-to-face clients as well, which is a good thing, and looking forward to meeting you.
Thanks, Peter. We welcome you to the team. I'm Amy Peacock. I am the business development manager. I have been in immigration from about 2020, also immigrated myself to and came back. So it's really nice to be part of this webinar to get a whole bunch of other sides to this process. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to answering a lot of people's questions here today. And yeah, that's me.
Great. Tashan?
Tashan is. There we go.
Oh, Tashan, we can't hear you.
Oh dear.
Okay. It seems
Hello.
It seems Tashan is having an issue with his mic. Tashan is the man behind our recruitment team. He assists us with all the CVs and getting in touch with the employers, and he will chat a little bit more about that when we get to that part of the stage. And last but certainly not least, the James Bond of In Demand, the man, the myth himself.
Well, yes, thank you very much. What a wonderful introduction. And I love your new photo there, Tash, looks great. Of course, I love everyone else's as well. So yes, my name is Rich Gunson. I am the, whatever you want to call me, founder, managing director, but I'm the licensed New Zealand immigration advisor as well. So I've been licensed since 2011. I'm here in the UK. So hello to any of our UK clients that we have. And certainly hello to all of our South African ones. I should be over in South Africa the week after next, so I'm looking forward to that. And I have been in this space, either be in recruitment or in immigration, for 25 years, coming up in about a month's time. So yeah, I'm very pleased to be here. In Demand is a brand and is a process and a family that we've put together post-COVID. To really identify how things are working on a global scale, but certainly how New Zealand have managed their immigration procedures as well. So I think we've got something a little bit special.
Yes, definitely. And I just want to thank Rich for heading up the team. He has, as he just mentioned, 25 years experience in the industry, and he has an incredible success rate, and we're all incredibly proud to work underneath him and a part of his In Demand team. We really do. We really are super proud of who In Demand is. So thank you very much. And thank you, Andrew and Sammy, for representing the UK with Rich. I see your comments in the chat box there. Great.
Can I just add, I started when I was 21. I just want to be,
You're trying to point out that you actually really are older than me, that I really am older than you, I mean. Hey.
I feel old.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So now we're going to start talking about incorrect information. So this is one of the biggest things when we speak to clients, when we have new clients that approach us, or even sometimes we approach clients, when we look for candidates, we approach them. And one of the first things they'll say is, oh, New Zealand's in a recession. So who can I throw this one out to? I know you're all dying to answer this one. So Rich, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I don't know as of today whether they're still technically in a recession or not. But as we probably understand, a recession is obviously a financial component to any country. But does it affect our skilled migrants? It possibly does. It possibly does. Does it mean that there's no jobs in New Zealand at the moment? Absolutely not. Does it mean that the industries where they require all of the skills from around the world, and certainly with focus on South Africa and the UK, those employers are still there, those opportunities are still there, and your skills are still required. And the green list is, which I know we talk about a bit later on, but is testimony to that. So is NZ in a recession today? Possibly. Is it going to affect things in New Zealand? Possibly. Is it going to affect you being able to emigrate out there? I would be very, very surprised.
Okay, Peter, you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I think just adding on to what Rich just said, I think it's more or less also about the GDP growth, unemployment. That is basically where recession comes from. According to me, the whole world is basically in recession. I think South Africa is still in recession, still 2008. But what does that actually mean for you as a South African? Going abroad, living in New Zealand, it's a first world country compared to a third world country. A lot of jobs.
Sorry, Peter.
I think somebody just muted myself, but yeah, I'm back on again. So recession in New Zealand, what does it actually mean for us as a client, as a business? So The job market is still very active for yourself, especially like we just mentioned, the green list roles, the SMC skilled migrant categories. So the job market is active, especially now you start need to hitting the job market in order to be in line to get that job offer. Once it's actually start quieting down, normally during December month, you want to be ready to get that job offer start going mid-January.
Absolutely. I just want to add to that also, like, you know, as a world, we all went through a pandemic. So a recession affected everyone. Everyone's recovering from it. And, you know, with the GDP growth, I always find it quite interesting when clients say to us that they don't want to look at New Zealand or they don't want to immigrate because it's going through a recession. I'm like, but you live in South Africa and we've been surviving through a recession. So there's more to New Zealand than just their recession currently. But looking at their stats at the moment, it's really impressive how they're actually getting out of a recession a lot quicker than a lot of other countries. So from a stability point of view, you know, if the petrol goes up, not everything will go up. You know, it's a slower increase of inflation, according to, you know, if you're going to compare apples to apples with South Africa.
I think it's also important to note that New Zealand does have one of the most stable governments in the world. I think that's a big thing to consider as well. I just want to read, Tashan's obviously having a problem with his mic. He said, as of September 2024, 35,000+ jobs remain vacant in critical sectors in New Zealand. So, I mean,
very important.
Because there's the stats for you.
And there's certain industries, obviously, that are, that's where it goes into the next pointer about the green list, which Rich can maybe give us more input on. But just before he does, you know, the green list is showing the demand of occupations, and that's why it exists, basically. If you're not on the green list, there are other pathways, but Rich, maybe I can hand it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just wondering whether Tashan, whether you should leave and then try coming back in once you sort your mic out, perhaps. Might be if Amy just keeps an eye out to let him back in.
Absolutely.
Technical dramas of Zoom. So yes, well, I mean, I just wanted another thing I wanted to say about the recession is, and especially with New Zealand, right? We need to be careful of headlines. So most of the things that we read online and hear is you know, written by journalists and various other people. So, you know, make sure you check your facts. I would say, you know, that is probably quite crucial. And also a lot of good things come out off the back of a recession as well. So that's worthwhile considering. So the green list, obviously, it's a list of occupations. It gives you the green light, if you like, to make the move to New Zealand. We've got Tier 1 and Tier 2. Tier 2 is a work to residency over a 24-month period, and Tier 1 is a straight to residency. Now, that is relevant if you're on the green list and you meet the specific, for that occupation, for your occupation, you meet the specific requirements that are on the green list as well. Which often meets a certain number of years work experience, occupational registration if required, and then potentially some level of qualification that's relative to your occupation as well. Are we going into it a bit more depth in terms of the green list here, Amy, or we just light touch?
No, we won't be.
I think the biggest thing there is that people are under the assumption that if they're not on the green list, they can't go. So I think it was basically just to clear that up. You know, that is not your only sort of option into New Zealand.
I feel Peter wants to chip in here.
Yeah, well, basically, like everybody just mentioned, you get your green list Tier 1, green list Tier 2. But the most important factor is the SMC, skilled migrant category, where most of our clients actually goes over, and that's on a 6-point point system, where your qualifications get assessed. You get points for qualifications, for your income salary brackets on a yearly basis, as well as registration. So that also opens up another revenue for our clients to actually get access to New Zealand.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Peter, I was also just going to put the next point out to you. Can you tell us a little bit about job security and cost of living? That's a big one that a lot of people speak about, is cost of living in New Zealand is so high, it's ridiculous. Let's see what you
absolutely,
have to
Tash.
say
Yeah,
about that.
it all depends on where you're going to be staying. You must live in New Zealand according to your salary. So if you want to end up in Auckland, Auckland at the moment, except from Queenstown, is the most costly city to be living in New Zealand itself. So there is other places like Hamilton. Hamilton is about an hour's drive outside of Auckland. Beautiful countryside, beautiful town, a lot of job security there. If you go a little bit down, you can also go to Hawke's Bay. You get your Hastings around Hawke's Bay itself. That's more or less like the vicinity of living in Port Elizabeth. And if you go all the way down to Wellington, which is the capital city of New Zealand, that is also way cheaper than living in Auckland. That is like living in Cape Town itself.
And I suppose, again, it's very much like South Africa. You live according to your means, right? So
Absolutely.
it's not as though you're going to go there. And obviously, when we sort of do what we do as part of our job search, we ensure that people are earning a decent salary. So, it's not as though they're going to go there and be poor, for lack of a better
That forms
word.
part of our settlement support services. That we actually do assist with accommodation, transport, opening up bank accounts, all those things before you even get on a plane and fly to New Zealand.
Yeah, 100%.
And just to add to that, we have a YouTube channel, if you haven't noticed, In Demand New Zealand. And on our YouTube channel, I've been really fortunate to chat to, obviously, our clients, interview them. But we have one client who actually moved to New Zealand. And this is something that a lot of people bring up, is they moved to New Zealand and then they moved back to South Africa. And now they're back in the process of leaving. And, people want to come back because of a variety of reasons. For these clients, it was because they had a daughter in New Zealand and their family hadn't met her. So that started, and then COVID hit, and then they couldn't go back. But at the same time, they missed that lifestyle. And when we spoke about the cost of living, they mentioned how it matches. It's not like in South Africa where, for example, maybe Centurion or Cape Town has a specific requirement for lifestyle. You've got to have the latest car, you've got to have the latest clothing. New Zealand or Kiwis, they don't really live that way. They enjoy different aspects of life. So the cost of living, there isn't really pressure, social pressure, but also what you're earning. They have a median wage, it's regulated, it increases. They have specific skill levels that actually match those requirements. And Rich, you can just maybe share about that visa requirement with the median wage that is designed to provide that kind of stability for your cost of living anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as Amy just said, specifically the median wage, there's a requirement for the visas. There's other elements to it as well, in terms of maybe taking your partner or dependent children with you, and depending on what skill level you are. So there's ANZCO, which is the Australian New Zealand classification of occupations, but you'll be furnished with all of this information in a free consultation with one of my team. And by the way, in those consultations and in those assessments, we lay out all of the specific info that you're going to need, be it that what the hourly rate is, what Careers NZ and what various recruitment websites are giving averages of your specific occupation at any one time. So we look at that for you as well. The other thing I would say is, job security is certainly there. It's getting the job. That's the challenge, and it's not easy. But that's what we do. Secondly, I would say, and I mean this with the greatest respect to anybody that's listening this, within the UK, is it safe for our kids to go out and play in the street like I did, back in the 1700s? And in South Africa, safety, security. Yes, there's wrong people in New Zealand, of course there is, but look at the statistics of crime. Look at this, how people live there. And I wouldn't suggest that you're going to necessarily move to New Zealand and make a fortune, but you're going to move to New Zealand and have a brilliant lifestyle, and you've got a huge level of you know, security there. You know, there's not the same crime statistics as there are pretty much anywhere else.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I don't want to cut anybody short, but we do need to move on. Rich, if you can just quickly go through with us some of the, if people are wanting to do this process on their own, some legal mistakes and the benefits of using an LIA, and how much those legal mistakes can actually cost.
Yeah, so I mean, if we think about immigration, it's a legal process, obviously within a government department, and so that there's a level of legality there in terms of being able to evidence everything clearly, and then there's other aspects of that there might be legal, you know, incidences with, you know, for instance, if you've got children that are adopted, or various other issues. So, as with anything, you know, whether you're going to buy a house or do something of you know, any importance, you'd usually want to get the right advice, whether that's financial advice or whether it's legal advice. And so within the immigration industry or within Immigration New Zealand government department, all immigration advice is regulated. So there are a few exemptions, but by far, you're either a New Zealand registered and licensed lawyer, or you're a licensed New Zealand immigration advisor, which is what I am. And there's various levels of that advice as well. Some might have provisional licenses or limited licenses. And, you know, yes, it costs to get the right advice, but it also costs if you get the wrong advice, or you read a blog or a Facebook page, and then you go ahead and put together your application and you miss one or two vital bits of information. It might be you haven't got a full birth certificate, you haven't got your qualifications assessed, you haven't got sufficient relationship evidence. It could be a number of different things.
Pick one wrong box.
Sorry?
I say, I've had it. Well, you have checked one incorrect box on the form.
Yeah. And Immigration New Zealand will always remind you that they're not there to advise you. They're there to you know, to make the call basically, and uphold the legislation. So yeah, one wrong move, not necessarily always, but could mean your application is declined, and then you've got to go through the whole process and pay all over again.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Ames, if we can please move on to the next slide. Okay, so this is a big one. I'm going to open up the floor to the three of you. Let's chat a little bit about, you know, sort of job stability, the term sponsorship, financial requirements, that kind of thing. So I think if we can just perhaps have a little bit of a discussion or a debate between the three of you, but I am going to put a cutoff on the time. So I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes just to chat a little bit about this. And it would be great if you can all put your questions in the comments section, and we will get to those questions as well. So off you go.
I'm going to start. I love this topic. A lot of the time clients come to us, they don't want to look at the process until they've got a full sponsorship from an employer. Look, sponsorship has very different terms, but you can't come into immigration. It, first of all, is a luxury, and second of all, needs to be looked at as an investment. Not everyone can afford to immigrate, but you have to put money down to show, first of all, the employer that you're serious, but second of all, to actually get the right representation and to make this process viable. So the sponsorship topic always comes up. I need the sponsorship. Okay, what does a sponsorship mean? Because what we understand it as is someone's going to pay for everything. But in like certain countries, it's the term to be accredited or to be able to take responsibility for someone on behalf of a visa. It doesn't have a monetary value to it. So that is one objection that people always come to me with, and I love explaining to them. But also, it's so important to have done your research on that. If you think about people that are being fully sponsored, it's not completely unknown, but it happens usually to candidates who are top tier 1 occupation with a master's or a PhD. You know, you've got to really have stood out, maybe be like the Elon Musk of your industry to a point. Then you can expect a sponsorship. But at the end of the day, we work with everyone, and we do a free assessment to check how strong your application is. But you can't come to us and expect everything to happen for free. You have to be prepared. You have to be ready to invest in this process. We all have to eat at the end of the day. Well, that's my 2 cents.
Are you sure you're done, Ames?
I don't know. I feel like it's going to come back. But I'm very passionate about this because a lot of people actually get caught in scams. You know, they get scammed. Yeah, no, this person will pay for everything. I just have to pay for the training. So then the training is, say, 20,000 Rand. And no, that's fine. Compared to everything else, I don't mind paying for that. I'm like, you're not going to get that money back.
No. And we are completely transparent throughout our whole process. I would just like to put that out there. I think it's very important for everybody to know that our entire process is completely transparent to our clients, which I think is very important. But I'm not going to interfere because this is your guys' discussion.
Well, I
Rich?
don't know what's left to say,
Yeah.
Amy. I think you basically summed everything up nicely there. But one thing that you did touch base on, what I like, is investment in your family. That is basically what migration is. This is an emotional decision. This is probably the biggest decision that you'll ever have to make in your life. It's basically migrating to a country that you do not know. So that is a huge investment in your own family. Getting back to sponsorship. Yes, you can ask for sponsorship, but you need to get to that recruitment stage, which is going to cost you money. So once you get to the recruitment stage, you start having your interviews with employees, you've got the right to ask for sponsorships. And there is sponsorships out there where they will be assisting you with your visa cost. They might help you with your settlement cost that side, or they might even help you with the full process, or even a 10,000 grant relocation cost. So it is out there, but you need to get to that recruitment stage.
Yeah, and I mean, just to touch on, so for instance, right now, school teachers, and there is a qualifying, few points that you need to meet, but school teachers, once you start in New Zealand, there's a $10,000 New Zealand dollar grant that can be, you have to pay the money and then you get it back, basically. And I've placed people over the last 6 months or so where they've had a substantial amount of their flights and visa costs and various other things replenished as well. But I would not suggest that is commonplace. And I think Peter's right. This is an investment for you and for your future and for your family. And I mean, I don't want to come across like a salesperson here, but I'm passionate about immigration, as I'm sure you can imagine, and also New Zealand. And so if you are making a decision on the 19th of September 2024, do you or do you not create a whole new future and your family tree in years to come? You'll be the people that made the move to New Zealand. How do you put a price on that? So I think that's where the investment and the financial requirements perhaps come from, and they need to be planned for. We're not going anywhere. New Zealand isn't going anywhere. Let's have that conversation and see, at what point you may or may not be ready to take on the costs.
And just to add to that, also, I'm not sure if Tashan can speak yet, but from no, still not. Okay. So from an employer point of view, and maybe Rich, you can guide us on that, but like, how likely is an employer going to open up and have a conversation or give you time if you start the conversation with, I'm willing to work for you if you sponsor me?
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. And this is the employers in New Zealand. I mean, we talk about sponsorship, and in New Zealand now, all New Zealand employers need to be accredited if they want to recruit from overseas. And so therefore, if you're talking to an accredited employer, they've sort of walked halfway across the bridge towards you, right? But you also are applying for a job. You're also have competition for sure, and so you need to stand out and be ready and prepared, and not be asking too much of an employer, rather more what you can, I don't want to come into some bizarre quote here, but more for what you can do for the employer rather than vice versa. And we work with you obviously on that to overcome a lot of those objections that the employer might have as in terms of niggles in the first point. But yeah, opening the door or knocking on the door and saying, you know, can you pay for everything to an employer probably isn't the best move.
Okay,
I know
definitely.
Tashan really wants to say something, but his mic is still not working.
Tashan, can you try and say something? I see you've put your earphones
No,
on.
it's not working.
No.
But I mean, also with that point, I mean, I know we will get to it a bit later, but this also comes to when we're talking about employers and timeline. You know, at the end of the day, your timeline will be longer if you have more requirements. So it'll take longer to find you a job if you're not as open to, you know, different areas, or, you know, moving around basically. But then that also comes to, you know, living in Auckland may cost you more than living in Hamilton or Hawke's Bay. So being open to being open, being ready with an investment, very, very important things when you are looking at immigrating. And this is the main reason, and I love that this slide is second, why most people aren't immigrating to New Zealand. They aren't going because they're stuck on, they need a sponsorship. And we do understand the financial stresses of South Africa and a lot of African countries, but you've got to commit to it from the beginning. And, you know, us as a team, you can tell myself, Rich, Tash, Peter, Tashan, we're all very passionate about getting you through the process as quick as possible, but you got to meet us halfway by coming with the finances and the requirements.
Definitely. Okay, any last comments on that, guys?
I see we've obviously got visa costs on there, and unfortunately fees are going up within a couple of weeks now. So anyone listening to this, the reality of getting in before they increase is, well, slim. And you know, and I guess that's just something that we have to deal with. The other thing is the green lists and the skilled migrant lists as well. Those do change. So I think another key point of, you know, the investment of your financials, but also your time, is to consider how long you may or may not take to make the decision. I've had conversations with people over the years where they've been eligible, and then something has happened, a change in Immigration New Zealand policy, which has certainly happened in 2024, and they're no longer eligible to go. So, you know, if you are eligible and if you think you can afford it, then, you know, that's, I would kind of take action.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, can we move on to the next slide? You guys just made it in 10 minutes. Well done. Okay, so this is something that I'm pretty passionate about, and something that I feel, you know, that I love about In Demand is that they have such a high sort of, we hold family in such high regard. We're all very family oriented people. We value sort of the you know, the family sort of unit. And it's important for us when we are dealing with people to make sure that the family is included, you know, and we really try and explain to our clients what an investment New Zealand is to families. So this is something that I really enjoy speaking about. But I know both Amy and Peter and Rich, actually, we all have a lot to say about it. But Peter, maybe you can tell us a little bit summary about setting up in New Zealand as a family.
Thanks, Dash. So basically what I normally liaise with my clients is setting up in New Zealand is all about, you normally need about 80,000 Rand. Now, 80,000 Rand seems like a lot of money, but that's going to go towards your first month of rental, your first deposit. That in itself can be close to about 50,000 Rand. You're getting paid on a weekly basis or every second weekly, every fortnight. So you just need enough funding to support your family through the first 2 to 3 weeks. Start accumulating funding and then set up costs or set up in New Zealand to sort it out.
Great, great. Okay, and Peter, why don't you also tell us a little bit about sort of the idea of, you know, the husband going first and then perhaps the family coming later. That is really something that I personally do feel quite strongly about, and I feel that In Demand have structured their process in such a way that that is not necessarily sort of something that families need to look at, because we don't like to split families up, obviously. So maybe you can chat a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So our moral is basically to get the family on the first plane, get them out of there, arrive in New Zealand as a family unit together. But in certain cases, either the husband or the wife have to go first, set up. That normally takes about 2 to 3 months to set up, get everything sorted, sorting out financial issues, and then basically get the rest of the family joining them in New Zealand. If that's the case, I normally try not to separate the family for longer than 6 months. So if you're planning on going over first, getting set up, getting the funding ready, and then the family to join, try and get that done as soon as possible, because we still need to prove that relationship.
Yeah. And just on that point, one of the big objections that we have is or clients don't want to go through this process because they don't want to leave their family. So a lot of them have this idea that they have to go on their own, set up, and then bring their family. Now, you're looking at about a 10 to 12 hour time difference. So I always ask my clients when I chat to them, why are you looking at immigrating? You know, your immigration idea is usually for security, stability. Why on earth would you ever consider the thought of leaving your wife and your daughter and your children at home, and you are now in a safe country? You know, you can be on the same flight. Rich can plan out. I mean, a lot of the times we just got a visa approval for a whole family this week, and they're all going on the same flight. They were approved at different times and they were submitted very close to each other, but at the same time, they're going as a family. And, you know, I do understand from the cost perspective, some people want to go first and then bring their family later. But how can you go to New Zealand, say you're a single applicant, and then 6 months later, oh no, I'm single, but I'm actually married and I have 3 kids that are more than like 5 years old. You know, you don't want to start your life in New Zealand on, you know, lying to everybody about, or lying to the Immigration Council about your status. And then on top of that, you can always go through the process with us. We've got an incredible 3-stage process where we include everyone, but we focus on the job search for one person and the process for, you know, that one person is carrying the family. It doesn't mean you all have to be on the same flight ticket and leave immediately, but at least we're prepared for the whole family to go. And my last point is also with the relocation side. You know, this family that we've got a visa approved for, which super well done to Rich, that was amazing. But, you know, when I called them and gave them the good news, they said to me, Amy, things have just all fallen into place. Our house that we wanted, we got approved for that this morning. The school that they wanted to put their child in, they got approved for that. And now their visas come through and they got incredible flight tickets. And those were all through our suggestions, our guidance as a company. And we're super proud of them and we're super proud of the process.
So we really do mean it when we say we hold your hand through the entire process. We will become your marriage counselors, your anxiety professionals. We will be with you through the ups and the downs, the ins and the outs, the entire process. So yeah, we're pretty hardcore like that.
And with that being said, I mean, you know, you can see we're a fairly small company, but we look at our clients as, obviously they're people, but we're going through the journey with them. You know, we're family. And
Yeah.
we've got a client, Tashan and myself were working with him on Tuesday evening to prepare for his job interview, like tonight at 10 o'clock with New Zealand. And this is his second job interview. So that's a really good step, and we're really proud of that movement. And I said to that person that, you know, I'm available. If you need to chat about the nerves beforehand, you can reach out. I know it's a bit much and I need to sleep sometimes, but you know, we get excited about that part of the process with them.
Yeah, we really do. Rich, if you can quickly just give us a little bit of a rundown. A lot of our clients are wanting to bring their parents over to New Zealand. I do believe that some of the laws regarding that have recently changed.
So yeah, I mean, in you know, linking back to what we've all said on this particular slide is, you know, obviously family is really, really important. Let's just say that you have children, and then you've got parents as well. So you know, it's worth saying that from a visa point of view, we usually have a temporary visa, then residency. Residency is usually all of you together, as in, you know, the main family, and then the temporary visas you'd go out on are applied for individually. So it is possible that you're in a relationship and you've got children and you go out to New Zealand first and then you bring them over maybe 3 months later or whatever. That is legal and you are able to do that. That is absolutely fine. But the other thing that worth bearing in mind is that we're usually very tied, especially if you've got kids, if you're fortunate still to have your parents, so that your children's grandparents. And there is an opportunity to be able to bring them over to New Zealand once you're there, living there, and you've been a resident for 3 years and you meet financial requirements to be able to sponsor either one or two parents. So there is quite a bit that's involved in that. As I say, you have to have residency for a 3-year period, and you also need to meet the financial requirements depending on whether it's you as an individual sponsoring both your parents, or if you've just got one parent, or you and your partner both working in New Zealand sponsoring one or two. So there's like 4 different categories, if you like, financially. And there are a few other requirements there and things to bear in mind. It's an expression of interest. So there is a quota that's capped on an annual basis. You get selected from a pool and then you're able to apply. But we can walk you through that whole process. So that certainly isn't impossible. And there are no sibling sponsorship opportunities now. If you're adults and you're just wanting to sponsor a sibling, they would need to come in on their own merits as a skilled migrant.
Yeah, just to put it out there that there certainly are, you know, Richard, as we've mentioned, he's young, but he's been in the industry for many, many years. So he is very, very knowledgeable on all the processes. And please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions regarding specific types of visas, you know, or if you're wanting to sort of get family over there or whatever the case might be, please feel free to reach out to us. That is why we have a licensed immigration advisor. And if anybody's going to know it, Rich will. So great. Can we move on to the next slide, please, Amy? Okay. So now we're going to discuss the benefits that New Zealand has to offer. So we've spoken a little bit about the recession, job opportunity, job security, salaries, cost of living. So let's look at the benefits. I think that's very important to look at because this, I think, very much goes back to the why, everybody's why they're wanting to immigrate to New Zealand in the first place. So let's chat a little bit about these. Peter, do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about the medical sort of, you know, the medical aid, or for the, what's the word I'm looking for? The
NHS healthcare.
The healthcare system in New Zealand, yes.
Absolutely.
Tell us a bit. Thanks, guys.
No problem. So basically, once you've migrated to New Zealand, start working, start contributing, you actually start contributing towards the NHS, National Healthcare System. That healthcare system is far better than a private healthcare system in SA itself. That covers everything, all your surgeries, minor as well as major, and basic dentistry for the kids up until the age of 19. So dentistry can be a bit costly in New Zealand, But for the kids, basic dentistry is basically covered up until the age of 19. That covers also your pregnancy medical care. So the only thing is that you need to pay for your pregnancy medical care is $50 just to see a GP. That's it. Everything else is paid for. But with the healthcare side, you're also covered under the ACC. That is your Accident Compensation Corporation. And it's similar to the SA's workman's compensation, except it covers you in and out of workspace and any kind of accidents. The only thing that you also need to add on, if you need to go and see a GP, costing can be around $40 to $50, and your prescription costs can be around $8 for a prescription. So top healthcare system in New Zealand, rated number 1 and 2 in the world, far better than what you're actually getting in SA. And like we all know, what we're actually paying for medical aid in SA, which is ridiculous.
100%. Okay, we are running a little bit out of time, so I am going to speed through these slides a little bit longer. I think another very, very big one is the education system. So I think, you know, for a lot of South Africans, really good education costs a lot of money. It's really the average person in South Africa can't afford it. So I think what's important for people to know about the education system in New Zealand is, firstly, they have the top 3 sort of curriculums in the world in terms of education and schools and universities. And primary and high school education is free. You're just paying for books and, you know, your stationery and excursions and that kind of thing. Peter, I think you said it's on average $1,000 a year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct, yes.
100%. So I think that really is a big one. And, you know, when we say to people, you're investing in your future, these are all of the things that we are talking about, because those things are really important. And, you know, for us as South Africans, I know that there are people from all over the world here, but for us, for South Africans, and I know a lot of my clients in the African countries feel the same way. You work, you know, you slave away, earning a pittance, and you've still got to try and support a family and pay for schooling, and your children are not getting the best education. So I think that really is important. You want to quickly just give us...
Sorry, just to add to that, I mean, also one of the big objections people, you know, when they go back to the cost of living with New Zealand, you know, a lot of these benefits you get from your day-to-day taxes you pay. Yes, you're going to be paying a bit more if you're going to compare it apples with apples, but what are you getting? You're getting medical, you're getting education, you're getting closer to a really nice retirement fund. You've got a residency pathway, you know, potentially a passport, but also that balance. I know that Tash and I were having a discussion the other day about a lot of our clients these days in South Africa have mental illnesses. So they've got medication for anxiety, depression. There's a lot that they suffer from. And with that work-life balance and the benefits of New Zealand, a lot of them don't have those issues. And, you know, that just kind of adds to, you know, it's maybe a bit more expensive and you do need to invest, but it's worth it because you get all these benefits.
Can I just say, mental issues might have been the wrong term to use.
Sorry.
But sorry. I think the point of what we were trying to say is that a lot of South Africans on a whole suffer with severe anxiety, panic attacks, depression, and it's as a result of the country that we live in and you know, the sort of stress on us as sort of having to accept the way that we live as the norm, whereas when people go to New Zealand, because they are so big, like they're on a healthy work-life balance, a lot of people find that those things kind of disappear. So please no offense to anybody.
Sorry, wrong term.
Mental issues.
Can I just add, in terms of benefits, you know, so whether you've been to New Zealand or not, you've only got to Google some images of New Zealand. Find me an image of New Zealand that isn't stunning and beautiful. You know, the size of the landmass of the country of New Zealand versus the population of people that live there is means that you've got space, huge amounts of space to be able to live in, you know, and enjoy that outdoor lifestyle. It's amazing.
Absolutely. We just love it. Okay, so can we get to some of the questions here that are in our chat? Oh, sorry, my apologies, Amy. Can you please run us through our 3 stages?
Cool. So, I mean, this is the solution, basically. Everybody goes on about why they can't immigrate. But, you know, we've simplified it. Rich has come up with this process. We're all adding to it. But to give you a little rundown, 3 stages. Stage 1, visa and work ready. You cannot apply for a job unless you've overcome those barriers. And a lot of the barriers that you'll come across in stage 2 is you don't have the right qualifications, you don't have the right certificate verifications, you don't have the right licensing. So we tackle all of that in stage 1. And we also reach out to employers and say, we are document ready. It puts us apart from you know, just applying on your own. So yeah, 3 stages. Stage 1, visa, work ready. Stage 2, we attack the job market. We focus on a hidden job market. We represent you, we focus on our network, and we hold your hand throughout the process. The main thing really is to keep trying. The job search market is very negative. We are expecting quite a boom now that New Zealand is kind of pushing out of that recession. But it doesn't mean that you start stage 1 and you're already in the job search market. You know, for example, if you're a teacher and you need to be registered, that takes time. NZQA, it takes time. And we've got a foolproof system that we work through with you. Once we have that job offer, Rich does all his LIA, work with the employer, focuses on the regulations, and we move on to the visa and the relocations. So you will work closely with Rich through the process, as well as in the 3rd stage where we've got that visa application, we work on the relocations, and we get you over. 3 stages. Visa, work ready, your foundation, secure your job because you can't go anywhere without a job, and then you apply for your visa, and we assist with the relocations.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amy. And that's such an amazing graphic. I think that it sort of puts our whole process perfectly into perspective. It's very easy to see.
Can I just add one little very, very quick thing on here, is that this has been crafted purposely to make it work, make your migration to New Zealand successful, right? So you want to get on a plane and you want to emigrate to New Zealand. You can't get on a plane unless you've got a visa. You won't get a visa unless you've got a job. You won't get a job unless you can show the employer that you're serious and that you're ready and prepared. And that's why we need to get you visa ready and work ready. So that this process is worked back from what you want to achieve to where you are right now.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Anything else before we get to questions? And if anyone else in our session has any questions, please put them in the comments section now. Anything else anyone wants to add, guys?
No.
Okay, I'm going to go to the questions. So we have a question from Julian van Niekerk. He says, what are your thoughts on New Zealand hitting its highest immigration to Australia, citing lifestyle reasons and reports of layoffs and reduction in salaries, i.e. the same job in 2024 paying less than in 2023?
Well, I'll pick up on the New Zealand to Australia. So Australia is a bigger country. There's more people that live there. It's bigger economically for sure. Having lived and worked in both of those countries, there are a huge amount of similarities, but they are also very, very different. You would move to New Zealand because you love the culture and everything about New Zealand. There are people that will go and live and work in New Zealand, be able to then, legally be able to get a passport and citizenship to then move on to Australia. That's happened since the 60s, and it will always continue to happen. So there's a big movement of people from New Zealand to Australia in that regard because they were on their way there anyway. So that's one option. But also two, in New Zealand, the sort of the late teens, early 20s through to maybe kind of early 40s, that kind of gap of people, as we all do, travel around the world. And a lot of New Zealanders go to Australia first. So that probably is a story behind those statistics there a little bit.
Okay, thank you, Rich. All
Sorry,
right,
can I also add to that?
Yes, exactly.
But also, if you think about it, you know, people having the same job in 2024 and then they're being paid less, like than they were paid in 2023. I mean, it does depend on the situation, the demand, but also don't forget we went through a pandemic, you know, a global pandemic that a lot of people were only paid 40% of their salaries and survived. New Zealand is smaller, but also New Zealand is isolated and there is an aging population. So a lot of the time, the people that have moved, they're either in that young age bracket that Rich was mentioning, or they have lived in New Zealand their entire life and now they want to explore. And you know, we why not go for it? But you've got to then come back when you see these reports and this information. How is that relevant to your situation and your reasons for wanting to immigrate? Always go back to your why. What is your reasoning? A lot of people also go for the financial freedom. So yeah, Australia is right next door. I mean, we've got a lot of Zimbabweans who move to South Africa and then they move back to Zimbabwe or they move somewhere else. I mean, we're not designed to be in one spot. We're human beings. We can move if we want to.
And by the way, as someone who's passionate about New Zealand, if you want to go to Australia, go to Australia.
Yeah.
Don't go to New Zealand.
More room for South Africans.
100%. If you want spiders and snakes, that's your place. Okay, so somebody said here, I missed the points on changing of the green list. What's the next my apologies. What's the next step? So I think the idea is if you have started your process and you're on the green list and then your role or your occupation is removed from the green list, what would happen in an instance like that?
Well, if so there's a whole load of different components to it, but if you've got a job offer and the visa application has been lodged, then you'll be fine. You know, you'd be honoured on whatever, whether it's on the green list or wherever there's a change to Immigration New Zealand policy. You know, if you haven't got to that point and you're either thinking about it or you're preparing, then you'll obviously be affected dependent on the change of policy. There has been incidences where we've had clients where they've been on the green list and now they're not. As we've sort of alluded to before, it doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you can go. There's still the skilled migrant category, as Peter was talking about. There's the point system. Before the green list and really before the pandemic, the SMC, the skilled migrant category, was it. That was really the way that you emigrated to New Zealand and became a resident, and that's still there, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, I think that there's quite a few questions, or people are asking quite a few questions about the English language requirements. Obviously, that is something that we discuss with our clients, but maybe, Rich, if you can just, or Amy, if somebody can just give a brief outline of when the English language requirements really are required in terms of residency, and who is exempt from writing the English tests. I think those are the kinds of questions.
I don't know whether, I mean, Amy, you're welcome to, but it's pretty complex. So again, depending on your skill level, depending on where you got your education, depending on where you live, there are a number of different layers, as there are with a lot of different visa policy laws as well. If it was a one-line answer, then, you know, people probably wouldn't need to use us. But Amy does proactively work with our clients. So I don't know if you want to.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, that's exactly my one-liner to that was get a free assessment and then we'll tell you, because that depends on your nationality, it depends on your occupation, it depends on your registration, it depends on, you know, are you on the green list or you're not on the green list? You know, there's so many different factors. There's also more than one English test and there's certain point requirements. So reach out to us. All of you who have registered or who are on this webinar, you have our contact details. You've all been reached out or spoken to. You've got our details. Respond to us. Let's set up a meeting and go through that assessment with you. From the very beginning, the whole reason majority of the people we speak to are not going to New Zealand is because they won't give us 10-15 minutes to have a discussion and give you the information you're looking for so that you're on the right track.
And discuss their options.
Exactly. So let's have a discussion, respond to our email, book a meeting with us. Let's talk about your pathway.
Definitely. Okay, so I think a lot of the other sort of questions are questions that we would be able to sort of rather direct to the people that have asked them on a one-to-one basis. So as I mentioned, I just want to say again that please note none of the advice in this webinar is considered or qualified as legal advice. It's important for you to know that. We thank everybody for joining us. If you have any last pertinent questions, you can put them in the chat box now. Please feel free to reach out to us. We are on all the social medias. You can find us we're on all the socials, should I say. You can find us on LinkedIn. We have a YouTube channel. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Our contact details are on the webinar pages as well.
And everyone who's been registered, they will get an email now. Please share some feedback, what you thought about our webinar, and then you can also reach out to your consultant by just responding.
And if I can just add a very tiny quick one, whether you use my company and our team here or not, please only take New Zealand immigration advice from a licensed immigration advisor.
100%.
Don't read anything else. That's the only place.
Make sure you do your research, please. It's so important to do your research. Research us. Make sure we're not a scam. Go onto all of our pages. Check our reviews. That's why we like to have video interviews with our clients so that we can, sort of generate that feeling of trust between people, because we hate it when people come to us and say, I've lost 100,000 Rand because I was scammed by somebody who said that they were going to get me a job in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, wherever it might have been. So, Nicole, sorry?
I was going to say, it's also the poor advice. So, for instance, just very quickly on English language, you might be okay, you might have a job offer, but you might be concerned about your partner or your kids, their English language ability. There's an option where you can actually evidence that you've signed up, that you're going to pay for English language training whilst you're in New Zealand. There's one example. And that's somebody that I spoke to recently that didn't think that they were going to be able to go because they didn't know that information. Another one, if you press the wrong button when you're applying for a visa for your children, if they're not a dependent child and they're an international one, they'll be getting charged international school fees, and it's very difficult to reverse that. Yeah, so it does pay to get the right advice for sure.
100%. Nicole Bergsma, one of my clients that I've been dealing with, she says, not a question, but thank you for a very informative session from an incredibly knowledgeable team. Thank you, Nicole, for joining us, and we appreciate your feedback. So any last thoughts, anything you'd like to say, Peter?
No, I just want to thank everyone for joining. Reach out to us. We're there to assisting you, and thank you for the team for a wonderful evening, and I look forward to working tomorrow again with you guys. Have an awesome evening.
Thank you.
We'll see you all tomorrow morning as well. Thanks so much, guys. We will put our socials out there, and so that you can see what they are. As Amy mentioned, you will all receive an email straight after this webinar. Tashan, do you want to try and unmute yourself and maybe just see if you can say a little goodbye or hello to everyone? Hello, Tashan? No, still nothing. We'll have to just go.
He does have such a wonderful voice,
I know, and he's dying to. I can see how frustrated he is.
Amazing.
What a great feeling to be part of the family, says Shakil. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for your great comments. We've really enjoyed this webinar. We love doing webinars, so please reach out to us, and we look forward to making new friends and new family and holding your hand on this new adventure to New Zealand. So enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.